I went back and I reread my fantasy manuscript, and within one chapter I was already asking myself, why is this palace pink? So I did something a little unhinged. What's new? I actually reread my fantasy novel, The Slave Prince, for the first book. Like, actually reread it. Cover to cover, every page, every overly dramatic sentence, every questionable decision, every bit of dialogue written by a version of me who clearly thought he was going to be doing something incredibly profound in 2020. And honestly, it was fascinating. That's a good word. It was fascinating. Also painful. Mostly fascinating. A little painful. A lot painful, actually. There's a lot in this book. Because I want to clarify, this isn't me writing a new book. I'm not drafting something fresh. I'm not real world building from scratch. I'm not announcing anything. There's no release date. There's no pre-order. There's no exciting reveal. This isn't a secret link hidden below. This is me just going through it for my own good, I suppose. Nothing is coming soon. Nothing is even coming in a moderate place. I'm opening an old manuscript. I'm rereading it. And going, oh, the book is The Slave Prince, which has lived in permanent limbo for a very long time, and I think at this point it's been so long it probably pays its own council tax. It exists. It's existed for a few years. There are 3 books. They're written or written-ish. Emotionally written, spiritually written, structurally less written. So I decided to go back to book 1 and actually read it properly. Not skim it, not open a random page, not feel vaguely proud for 7 seconds, actually do it. And rereading your own work years later is a very weird experience. Because sometimes it hits you in a paragraph or anything, you're reading it and it's like, oh, that's actually good, that's surprisingly good. And then you get that little moment of, wait, did I write that? That's decent, that has atmosphere, that's voice, that has weight. And then 2 paragraphs later, you hit a sentence and you feel like it was written by a Victorian theatre kid having a breakdown in a candle shop. And you think, what happened? Who wrote this? Was this me? Was I possessed? Did someone break into my MacBook? Why am I talking like this? Why are these characters saying this? And the biggest thing I realised is this book needs to lean harder into what inspired it in the first place. And I mean a lot harder, because the bones are there, but it doesn't always commit. And I think that's why parts of it feel massively inconsistent. The setting at the start is basically ancient Egypt. That's the heartbeat of it. Heat, stone, gold, dust, temples, palaces, politics, power, religion, empires. And yet somehow reading it, I'm suddenly hit with a weird detail, and I think, why does this feel like it wandered in from something else entirely? Why did I choose this? Why is this room decorated that way? And why, most importantly, why is this palace pink? Why did I do that? I genuinely don't know. Past me made choices. Current me is simply reviewing the evidence, like a detective at a crime scene. And the more I read, the more I realised that it needs to commit harder to its original inspiration. Ancient Egypt, Egyptian mythology, ancient Rome, Greece, Persia, the political structures, the visual language, the clothing, the architecture, symbology, the ritual, all of it. And underneath all of that, the original emotional inspiration behind the story was always the story of Moses. The threads are still there, but it needs to be stronger, cleaner, less afraid of itself. It needs to trust the thing that inspired it. But I also realised it needs more movement, more danger, more momentum, more knives, more swords. Well, I mean, possibly more people running across rooftops. And I'm not saying I want it to become Assassin's Creed. That's not what I'm saying. Because right now, parts of it feel very static. The pacing needs a lot of help. Real help, professional help, therapy level help. The beginning especially. That first chapter. The prologue and the first chapter, oh my god. That first chapter, it's weak. And it's worse than weak, it's cliched. Like aggressively cliched. You enter some kind of tavern and somehow mysteriously waiting in the basement there are rebels sitting there. Candlelight. everybody's whispering about revolution, and immediately I'm reading it and thinking, why did I do that? Why did I gather everyone in a basement of a drinking establishment like we're starting a Dungeons and Dragons campaign? It's been done. We've seen it. I've seen it too many times. And apparently, I still wrote it anyway. And then the middle. The middle drags. There's good stuff in there, but buried under so much extra. Scenes that repeat the same emotional beats, conversations saying things we already know, moments that feel important while writing but don't actually move the story. And I've already cut over 150 pages. Which sounds dramatic because it is dramatic. Satisfying though. Deeply satisfying. Delete, delete, delete. Gone. Beautiful. And then later the book has a sequence involving memories, flashbacks, past lives, fragments of the past resurfacing. And on paper it should be this huge emotional moment that should hit hard. It should feel devastating. Free will versus fate. And reading it back, it doesn't. Which is annoying because the idea is there, but the emotional beat, it hasn't landed yet. It needs more impact. It needs more emotional weight, more stillness, more pain. Something sharper. Because right now it's interesting, but it's not unforgettable. It's forgettable. It's very, very forgettable, and that's a huge difference. And overall, if I'm being really honest, it feels bloated. Like, this book went through so many iterations, and the first draft that was a nearly 2,000-page document written during a depressive episode during 2020, and we all know what happened there. That structure is still there in places, and you can see where I've tried to strip it into something smaller and more containable and more readable, and it's trying very hard. It's trying too hard, and I think that's part of that is because the book started during a weird time in my life, and you can feel it on the page a lot. Some of it's less storytelling and more like emotional debris with chapter breaks. Mental health, hospital strokes, like trauma dressed as fantasy politics, which, fair enough. It was 2020. But apparently my coping mechanism was, what if everyone in this desert kingdom has unresolved emotional damage and monologues? But rereading it taught me something useful, which is, I really understand now why writers need editors. I get in trouble for saying this. You can edit yourself, it's fine. No, I need an editor. Desperately, and I just can't afford one. And I'm going to be very real, I can't self-edit. I am blind to it. And your brain fills in gaps automatically. You know what this scene is meant to do, so you assume it's doing it, and then you reread it years later and realise, oh no, I'm not doing that at all. And it was doing something completely different, and I think distance matters, perspective matters, time matters, and honestly, working on this without pressure has been really nice. Because I'm changing things, I'm cutting things, I'm rewriting scenes, moving pieces around, sharpening the world, making notes, fixing things I know aren't working. But without needing it to become anything. I'm doing this for me. 110% for me. Not every manuscript has to be published. Not every project has to become a product. Not every piece of writing needs an announcement video and a release campaign and a countdown and links everywhere. Sometimes it can just be yours. And maybe I'm just doing this to satisfy my ego a little bit. Maybe prove, yeah, I'm a good writer. Maybe. And so I do think more people need to realise you can work on things privately because it matters to you, because you still care about it. Because it's unfinished, because it annoys you, because you're curious of what it could become. Maybe it will stay in limbo forever. Maybe it doesn't. I genuinely don't know. But right now, I'm enjoying opening that file again. And I think that's enough. So, tell me what you think in the comments below. My name is Darv James, and we do this every Monday, Wednesday, sometimes Saturday, but always a Friday. And if you want to support this channel, you're welcome to leave a comment, like, subscribe, hit that little bell icon if it works. And if you want to go deeper and get the podcast, check out membership options and Patreon. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.